Hello, and welcome everybody to the final project presentations for our August cohort. August, I am sure you all remember your first day together just 3 months ago. And in that week, you asked some things of each other, and I've sneakily asked Owen if he will share those with me. Some of those things you asked were to help each other, share knowledge, motivate each other throughout the course, and support each other. I really believe you've done all of those things. You've come a really long way in the last 17 weeks here at Makers, and I'm really impressed with all you've accomplished and how you've grown. With that, let's move on with what's going to happen this evening. We have an intro. That bit's pretty much done. We will then go into some presentations, and I will ask some questions of the presenters as we go. We will then have a short Q&A at the end for any questions you in the audience have about Makers and about the course. And with that, let the presentations roll. It's over to you, Team Wakeify.
Hello, everyone. We are Team Wakeify, and that's me, Millie, Lily, Moses, and Geisha. I'm going to share my screen, and I've got a little presentation for you. We have spent the last 2 weeks building a mobile app which matches your mood to a playlist. So it's an app that helps you wake up in the morning and then finds a good playlist for you. And I'm going to talk about the learning that has happened for us in the last 2 weeks. So we decided to build this app in React Native, which is very useful because it's a language that allows you to build an app for iOS and for Android and also for the web. But it was a completely new language to us, so we had to learn it first. And we spent the first 2 days just really diving into that. And we shared videos and different documents on how to best learn it. And then we started implementing the first features for our app. And when we started, we pretty much a good strategy that we used was like finding some examples that other people had done on the internet, taking their code, and then step by step reading through it, understanding it, adapting it so that it's a feat that we can make it our own, and then kind of rewriting it and using it in our own app. And that way we were able to build and to produce our app and to build it and learn at the same time. And that was really effective. And yeah, there were lots of times when that was also really difficult because it was something new and there were bugs and things that we didn't know about. And there was lots of frustration. But in the end, we managed to overcome all of them. And now at the end of the 2 weeks, we can really say that we all have a pretty good basic understanding of React Native, which we're quite proud of. So I'm going to pass over to Moses now, who's going to talk about the Spotify API.
Thank you, Jonas. So to be able to use Spotify services within our app, we needed to connect to the Spotify API. So the first thing the app does is ask you to log into Spotify in order to authorize the app itself to use Spotify services through your account. So you click authorize Spotify, you log into Spotify, and it asks you for permission. Once you've logged in, it returns an authorization token. So this is almost like a password that we want to get, that's checked whenever we want to get information from Spotify. So once this check passes and it says the password's correct, we're then able to search Spotify and Spotify's database for playlists matching our genre and mood. And within those playlists, we take a random playlist, take the URL, and use it as part of our app to send you directly to Spotify. And so there's 3 different ways we can go about getting this authorization token. There was the authorization code flow, the client credentials flow, and the implicit flow. And because we only had 2 weeks to build this project, we went with the implicit flow since it is the easiest to implement. And this diagram here basically explains how the implicit flow works for the more technically inclined. I'm going to pass you on to Geisha now.
Thank you, Moses. Great. So I'm going to quickly show you guys what our app looks like and a short demonstration of that. Great. So we open our app and we can select first the notification time. This is when we want to get the notification on the next morning when we wake up, to select, to actually use the app. Now you can see that it's saved, and we go on to our favorite genres, and we here have a lot of different options, and we go for electronic now. Great. So we can either go through select our mood, authorize Spotify, and just click on your mood now. This time is happy. So we get a playlist of our favorite genre according to our mood.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, so the next video that you're gonna see is just a quick user demonstration. So it's basically user whose favorite genre is R&B, and they've selected the notification at a certain time, and this is when they're gonna get it. Yeah. Great, so we can see that we got our notification here. Good morning, tap to set your mood. We tap it, and then we go authorize our Spotify account, and we're feeling today a bit energetic. Great. So we get an R&B energy playlist. That was all. Thank you. I'll pass it on to Lily.
I'm going to talk about the databases and the challenge that we had. At the beginning, we decided altogether that we wanted to go for a database, not SQL database. So we thought about going to Mongoose. That was something that we worked with before, and it was easy to implement new features. However, we weren't able to connect it to React Native. So we did a search and we found a realm, which is supported by MongoDB. After we spent all day trying to make it work. Unfortunately, we couldn't. So we got another solution that was async storage. And async storage stores your data on the app. So that way we were able to store the notification time and also the genre. I'm going to pass to Millie now.
So I'm going to talk about sort of our journey as a team. So from the beginning, we made sure to schedule our stand-ups and regular check-ins. We had a different leader each day, so that was quite balanced, and we used the Trello board almost religiously to make sure that we were always up to date and assigned tickets. If we had a ticket or working on a ticket for say 2 days and we wanted to change, we would make sure that we would accommodate and change over. We faced a lot of challenges, but sticking to our initial structure and maintaining sort of a good consistent communication, we were able to overcome those challenges. So it was great to have that base. Our aim was to have sort of a functional and potentially scalable app, learning something new, and to be proud of our work, working together. And I think we've definitely achieved that together.
Super. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And that was our presentation.
All right. Thank you, Team Wakeify. Team Wakeify, please stick around. I have a question for you. I would really like to know, out of all the things you did in your project, what do you think is the single best thing you did in your project?
Yeah, I think for me, the single, and I think we all feel like that, I think the best thing for us was that we overcame all the difficulties in learning a new language and a new framework, and we managed to make the app run and overcome that in just 2 weeks and learn something new. And that felt really amazing. So we're quite proud of that.
All right. Thank you once again, Team Wakeify. Let's move along. It is time for you all to hear from our second team of the night, who are Team Loopy Cookies. Dear Loopy Cookies, please take it away.
Hi everyone, we are Team Loopy Cookies. I'm Rita, my teammates are Jovi and Leroy. I'm going to take you through first why we decided to build a game. And first of all, of course, who doesn't like games? But also for us building it, we thought this would be quite different than what we had done at Makers so far. Those were all apps based around sharing content. And we thought trying to build a game would pose some new challenges and we could have fun solving them together.
Thanks, Rita. I'm going to be talking about the team. So I'm Jovi and I joined on day 2, actually. Originally, it was just Rita and Leroy. Had the opportunity to join them. And straight away, we knew the problem was, one of the challenges was that we had a small team compared to some of the other teams. And so that was one thing. But then also a game was a very broad concept. So that was another thing to narrow down. But we were very motivated to build something fun. So we went ahead.
Yep. How we decided what to build. We had a couple of ideas, and then we decided to do a escape the room type of game. As going through some research, we saw we were able to build multiple games, and so we decided to build a game that has multiple games inside it. In one main game where is a escape kind of game room.
Thanks, Leroy. And we're going to head over to a very quick demo of the game. It's pre-recorded, but I'm going to talk over it as if I'm playing. So we start off here on the left as this little guy, and we're going to escape this room. So we're going to go to the cookie monster first, see what he has to say. He says, "Give me cookies." So we go to one of the cookie jars. And this little game says you must choose a pill. So we'll go ahead. And we chose the wrong pill, so we lost. And we try again. And this time we chose the right pill and won. So let's see what the cookie monster has to say this time. Give me more cookies. So very greedy indeed. So we'll go to the other cookie jar to see what's going on there. And this time we're a dinosaur jumping over meteorites. And we give it a go. We failed on that one, so try again. We've lost count of how many times we've actually made these jumps, but let's not talk about that. This time we win, we get another cookie, and we head over to the cookie monster and see what he says. He says, "Thanks, now escape before it's too late." So nothing else left to do but to get this diamond and escape into some sort of heaven. Or we're just skydiving at this point, I don't know. We never really talked about that.
Thank you, Jovi, for that demonstration.
No
And in trying to build this game, we didn't use any pre-existing game engine or frameworks, which meant that we also ended up building a game engine where we simulate the time and physics, user interaction, and displays of this game. We took a starting point, which was a tutorial in a book called Eloquent JavaScript. But our main challenge was adapting this code base to meet our needs. To make it into a game of games, we had to really innovate and add to it and problem solve creatively. And we're really proud to have been able to meet our design needs and innovate together.
Yep. The tech stack we used was vanilla JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and Jest, which is a testing library for JavaScript. The reason why we chose this tech stack and decided to stick with it is through research in the beginning of our project. We saw what kind of games we could build with this, and it was quite impressive. And using the starting point in the book that Rita mentioned, it fitted in very nicely with this tech stack.
Thanks, Leroy. I'm just going to talk very quickly about teamwork. So as we mentioned before, there was only 3 of us, and because it's an odd number, it makes pair programming very difficult. So it was difficult to know or figure out whether we should be pairing on a particular problem, or we should be doing solo stuff, or all 3 of us looking at the same thing. Then an added level of difficulty was that games turn out to be really difficult to test. Lots of bugs. You can't account for all player interactions and what they do. So that was very difficult, but we all came together, persevered, and yeah, overcame all those problems.
Yeah, and the final thing we'd like to mention that we're really proud of is our 100% test coverage. And this means basically that all of our code is accounted for and covered by our tests line by line. And games are notoriously hard for testing, and therefore they tend to not have this much coverage. And we were really passionate about maintaining good code quality and worked hard at achieving this. So it's also one thing we wanted to mention today. And
Yep.
Thank you. You can navigate to this link in order to play our game for yourselves and test it out. We strongly encourage you to do so and let us know how it goes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Team Loopy Cookies. Team Loopy Cookies. Oh, wow, this is animated. Amazing.
It's actually just me scrolling the wheel.
Perfect. I'd like to know, what's the most important thing that you've learned in this project?
Who wants to go? Will I go? I think for me, the most important thing was learning how to kind of take the training wheels off. So we've had 3 team projects so far at Makers. The first one was very much just testing the water a bit. Second one got a bit more difficult with less guidance. And then this time around, it was kind of like, just go do a project, figure everything out on your own. So the training wheels, like I say, was completely off. And we really had to focus in on like how to learn everything from scratch, build things from scratch, and be kind of confident that we can do that going forward.
All right. Thank you once again, Team Loopy Cookies. Let's move along to our third team this evening, Team Legitimate. Are you ready to share with us what you've been working on?
We are ready, I hope. So our project is called This Reeks. And in a world of clickbait, fake news and misinformation, when you're reading an article online, how do you ensure that this information is not disinformation? And that is where our project comes in. It was born out of the sentiment that if a newspaper headline is a question, then the answer must be no, because if it was true, they wouldn't be asking a question. I kind of thought, what other internal checks do we do when we're reading news, and can we computerize and automate this process? So our mission was to create a tool that can take information and give you a result discerning how trustworthy that information is. We used quite a considerable tech stack for this project, which Dee is going to run us through now.
We wanted to learn a lot of new things, and a good way to do that we thought was going for TypeScript as our main language, and related things that some of which we had used before, but not with TypeScript. So integrating these with the new language and the new approach to doing things was a good thing to learn. For the front end, we used EJS, which was also good practice for JavaScript, and we hadn't used that before either. We used also Bootstrap and Material Design for making things look much prettier. For the testing, we use Jest. Some packages that we used in our development were Prettier and ESLint, which was very useful for pointing, giving us suggestions and making typing work easier, because it was good advice like to have in the environment. And Pretty was very useful for keeping the code consistent. And other than that, we had multiple different APIs that we use for the project, and also project management tools, which back to Jason to explain how we used.
So we did a lot of planning in this project. We used Excalidraw and came up with an extensive plan before we started, which at times felt frustrating because I'm definitely someone that prefers to just get on with it and start making something. But this really helped us out because it meant that things went slow at the start and then we could move quickly as soon as we were ready to go. We planned everything out on Excalidraw and kept going back to it as well to add to it. And then when we got to actually working, it was Trello. We split everything down into small tasks with t-shirt sizing as makers suggested, so that everybody knew where everyone was at all times. We weren't going to step on each other's toes with tasks, and then we can move forward efficiently and we can see what's been done. So now we're going to go on to a demo, which Abdullah is going to walk us through.
Right, so we've got a few videos here that show how different headlines return different results. So this first example is a left-wing headline, and you can see when we enter this, the results we get are 31% clickbait for our local checker, depending on how many boxes it has ticked. In this case, it's ticked 4 boxes. For the sentiment checker, it returns it's quite negative as it's a political statement. And for the political results, it's quite left leaning. And for the emotional analysis, the emotion detected the most is anger, followed by fear. And you've got 7 other emotions there. But generally, when it's a political statement, normally the emotions tend to be more negative. Now, this is an example of a right-wing headline, and you can see we still run the same checks, including our local checker. We do the sentiment checker as well, and for the political result this time, it's more right-leaning, as you can see. And for the emotions, it's sadness and anger, again, as the prevailing emotions, as it's political statements. In terms of the Google check and the more neutral statements, I think James will demo those in the next video.
Yep, so just to prove that we don't only return negative results, if you type in a sort of positive headline there, such as meditation improves our health and well-being and makes us happier, it's an overwhelmingly positive statement, and it seems to not have any political bias within it, with a slight 7% left-leaning. And the most found emotion there is joy, which I guess adds up and makes sense. And the Google fact check, you may have noticed, currently and throughout has not returned any results as of yet, but we will demo that in the next video. So this fact check works on shorter claims. So as you can see, we've typed in the earth is flat, as there are some people going around with that current belief. And as you can see, no real sources come back for anything politically, as it's such a short statement. Joy detected, possibly, I'm not sure why, as it's just a short statement, but we can find here that the Google fact check has returned any time that this statement has been referenced to in articles where it has been checked as to whether it can be true or false, and it links to an article proving that the earth is not flat and disputing that claim. And one final thing we have on the site is at the bottom, we have the top 10 most clickbaity articles of the hour for both the US and the USA. And it links to apparently our most clickbaity article from the US in the last hour is top 7 smartphone watches. And you can also type in a particular topic such as Bitcoin, and it will return the most clickbaity articles surrounding that topic. So I'm going to now hand you back over to Jason on what our limitations were and what we would hopefully aim to go on to in the future, did we have more than 2 weeks.
Thank you. So we did really well for 2 weeks. I think we had so much going on. There was a lot more that we wanted to do with the project. It just wasn't possible in the time, given that we had to learn TypeScript to do it, and so many new technologies that we kind of struggled with. But the local check algorithm would be the first thing. It was fairly basic, and essentially the local check was our MVP, and then we added everything on top of it, which is what we kind of wanted to get out of it. It would be nice if that was a bit better, but it's pretty good at the moment for something basic. Long text functionality would be good, which is where our APIs come in. Google Fact Check obviously likes short claims of a few words so you can check it, whereas the political lean likes full articles. So there's a middle ground somewhere, and I kind of looked into APIs where you could take keywords out of articles and we could give that to the fact checker, but with the amount of time we had, it just wasn't reliable enough to delve into. It would be nice to enhance the UI as well, make it look a little bit prettier. I think it looks really good at the moment, but the idea was to have it as a Chrome extension. So you could go onto any news website and it would automatically check every article, and then maybe change the color of the article or the box surrounding it so that you could see what was believable and what wasn't. But in the time frame, that wasn't possible, but it could be possible in future. And then the final thing that we thought about but didn't sort of dive into was accounts personalization. If you are a right-wing person and that's your neutral, then you should be able to sort of change that and change your settings so that maybe it doesn't take certain stories as fake, but we would want you to pay for that because I'm not doing it for free. So having paid accounts would be a cool idea. We didn't have the time to do it. To implement it properly in the way that we want would have been a bit of a stretch. But aside from that, I'm really, really happy with what we came up with. I know that my group is as well. I think we should all be really, really proud of ourselves, and that is this week's. Cheers.
All right. Thank you, Team Legitimate. Team Legitimate, I have a question that I would really like to know your answer to. What are you most proud of as a team?
I can take this question. I will say we will all agree with what we struggled with the most at the start was possibly having eyes bigger than our stomachs. And I think we exceptionally managed our expectations. Coming into the first 2 days, we were going to have an awesome front end UI. We were going to have a crazy extension that checked any article around the world. But we very quickly realized there's only so much you can do in 2 weeks. And I think despite the challenges we had with lowering our expectations, we managed to put together something we're all very proud of in a brand new language that none of us had ever touched before.
All right. Thank you once again, Team Legitimate. Before I hand you over to our next team, a quick reminder. We'll have a Q&A at the end of these presentations for any questions you in the audience have about makers or about the course. And with that, let's move along. Our next project is from Gregory. Gregory, please take it away.
Hi, I'm Gregory, and I'm going to be presenting my project. So my project was involving learning a new language and using that new language to develop artificial intelligence, very basic sort. So yeah, in the research and preparation stage, when I was first approaching the project, I really wasn't too sure on what I was doing, but I did have the framework and knowledge of the previous projects we did over the course of the boot camp to be able to approach the subject matter in a very concise, effective, methodological approach of developing something like this totally by myself. So I looked at what I wanted to accomplish and would it be even possible to do in the set amount of time that we had regarding time constraints. What would it do? How would I demonstrate that it works? What systems in research into the programming language that's predominantly used for something like this. And it was very time consuming to reach out and contact individuals, many online meetings, Zoom calls, etc., to come to the conclusion that Python is predominantly used for developing something like this. The reason Python is predominantly used for something like this is because it's a very easy language to use. So the dead giveaway in this project was that educational institutions use this language for any sort of development. So first reference point was MIT, and to see what they're working on. And there's many other artificial intelligence that have been recently come out, like drawing, animation, that you just put some words in. And I looked at their code base and see how they were developing that AI, which very famous one is the OpenAI one. That is, I would say, globally recognized in all of this. And yeah, it was always Python. And it's always one of the top best programming language over there. It has extensive libraries, huge, helpful community of developers that try to answer questions for you. So that was one of the first steps that I did in developing this project, and collect as much material as possible to learn how to develop it, basically, and train myself for long periods of time to be familiar with the language. So after developing and learn the skill set to be quite fluent in Python, I set off to develop a game, because I needed some way of demonstrating that the AI is actually working and is actually doing something. So I developed Tetris, a very simple a game that has a stop and end to it, and is not too overly complicated, because I've never done something like this before and I don't know what would happen. So it's very simplistic in how it works. I can show you a quick demonstration of how the game is pre-recorded, of course, of how the game actually plays. So this is just me playing the Tetris game. It's nothing too fancy, but it works, it functions. And I use this using Python and the game engine Pygame to get everything concise together and just further on development. Afterwards, with that and that working and tested, I moved on to finding an algorithm that I could basically use that actually learn to play it. And there's many different types of artificial intelligence available. You have the ANI, AGI, and ASI. I selected the GA, genetic algorithm, because it works on the Darwinian principle of natural selection. And it's very easy to implement, and because it keeps repeating itself. So the process that the AI uses is very simple, where it creates a population of players, let's say 10 players, and it makes all of them play the game. And whichever one gets the highest ranking, it selects that one, and then repopulates the new group with that player. So it keeps repeating that cycle in an endless loop until the game comes to an end and the game is beaten. So that's the overall goal of the AI system and how it works. My conclusion in this project was it's an amazing experience. I'm thankful for makers for making it possible. And the learning experience and the curve was very emotional and very challenging, but I managed to pull through and was successful.
All right. Thank you, Gregory. Gregory, I hope you don't mind. I have a question for you as well.
Sure.
I would like to know, out of all of your goals, which one goal do you feel you managed the best?
It's a quite complicated and tricky question, but my main goal was, would I be able to do it? In a time constraint, would I be able to sit down, be disciplined, and with the background knowledge that makers provided me with, be able to accomplish something like this? So that was my main goal. And you're literally fighting against yourself, because sometimes you just want to give up and you're like, I can't do it anymore. But then you take a break, you step away from the problem, you come back, you look at it from a different perspective. And you keep pushing forward and forward and forward. And sometimes it's extremely challenging and you can't do it, but you don't give up. And then with each day, with each iteration of the project, you start achieving new heights and learning new things, the complexities, the integrations. And you finally step back and like, wow, I did it. So I would have to say the biggest goal and the biggest challenge was me, myself, and getting it done.
All right. Thank you once again, Gregory.
Thank you.
Let's move on to our final team for this evening. Team Less Waste, More Taste. Please take it away.
Hello, welcome everybody. We are More Taste, Less Waste. The idea came from Marina having leftover alcohol from parties and not knowing what to do with them. So we decided to create a search engine where you can achieve less waste and get more wasted with the ingredients that you have in the house. The tech stack that we decided on using was MongoDB for databasing, Express for routing, React for the front end, and Node. The main reasons we chose these is because there's lots of hireability at the end of it, and we all wanted to dive in and learn something new and like really push ourselves. I think that we achieved all of those things in the end, and the tech stack was the right choice. Learning React was like a huge learning curve for us. And on the first day, we came up with user stories together. We then extracted from those user stories which parts we wanted to achieve and put them into our Trello board. And then each day we could take a ticket from Trello and then work on that going forward. We also have a beautiful Excel draw from Marina, which gives us like an idea of how the routing would work. So anytime you got stuck, you could refer back to that. I'll pass you on to Sadat to talk about how we got and stored our data.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. So yeah, we collected data from a website called Cocktail DB. This website conveniently has its own API, so we used it to get a list of cocktails and ingredients. We stored this information in our own database to make our website as fast as possible. This also allowed us to add our own extra data to the items. To get the prices of the ingredients, we used a web scraper. Originally, we created a script for Amazon to get the prices of the ingredients, but unfortunately, we got rate limited fairly quickly for making too many requests too frequently. So yeah, we ended up using a website called Trolley, which has a lot of ingredients and also shows you where you can get the ingredients from for the lowest price. So yeah, I will now be passing it over to John.
Yeah, so once we had the user stories and the general tech stack that we were going to use, we sketched a low fidelity design on Figma. That proved to be quite valuable because we could see how the functionalities that we thought about will play out on the website and any potential user experience issues. Regarding the actual CSS that we use, we decided to go with Bootstrap, mainly because it's a framework that allows us to move much faster and focus on understanding React, which was a new language for all of us, and also developing the backend and the logic that Marina will explain now.
So now we have the data from our backend, and we agreed how it was going to look like on our website. So the next task was to choose in which order to display the results to the users. We decided to compare all the search items that the user inputs into the search bar with all ingredients contained in individual cocktails. And first we display those cocktails that have the most amount of ingredients that the user searched for. And if there are two or more cocktails that have the same number of overlapping ingredients, we first display those that have the fewest number of missing items. So enough talking, let me show you how it actually works. So the landing page of our website displays a random cocktail. You can see who has made the website, and every time when you refresh the page, it displays you a new cocktail. You can search for the common ingredients and not very common ingredients, and here are your search results. You can look through them and decide if you like anything, or you can add more ingredients that you have at your home. You get new search results. And if something catches your eye, you can go into the recipe of individual cocktail, and you see all the ingredients that this cocktail contains, how much it costs to buy each individual ingredient, and how to make the cocktail. Finally, we made our website fully responsive, so the user can have good user experience no matter whether they use a desktop website or a mobile device. Over to you, Xiao.
Thanks, Marina. I'm going to talk about several exciting features that could be added in the future. For example, currently we're only able to search cocktail recipes by its ingredients, but more intuitively, we would also want our users to be able to search cocktail by its name. And similarly, we want to do the same thing for the food recipes. Imagine you open the fridge and have no idea what to cook, and we only need to find a more reliable and database for the recipes, and most of the functionalities would still be the same. Last but not least, we could do some small improvements on the website, such as updating the price regularly, and then we would also like to show the total price for the individual cocktail recipes. Thank you all for listening.
All right. Thank you, team. Less waste, more taste. You'll be surprised, I am sure, to know that I have a question for you as a team. Team Less Waste, More Taste, please, what was your highlight from the last 2 weeks?
I think I'm going to speak, but I hope it's for everybody, in the fact that the highlight for me was that we all took time to explain everything that we had done, either that day or the morning after. So like knowledge was just like shared really freely between us. And at the end of this, when we're done, I feel like everybody has such a strong understanding of how we built our project. So like going forward, I'm so confident that everybody in our team has like the building blocks for like saying to an employer, I'm proficient in the basics of React. And it just feels so nice that we like come together as a team to like leave all with the same knowledge.
All right. Thank you once again, team Less Waste, More Taste. And with that, our presentations and demos are finished. So, August cohorts, thank you once again, and feel free to drop off the call now if you want to. Let's roll on to the Q&A section of this evening. So, Nikki, are you willing to host the Q&A?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Alex. So yeah, thank you everyone for presenting today. I'm really impressed with everyone's projects, especially the last one. I think that'll be very useful after January with all that extra alcohol. Yeah, it's just amazing amount of work you guys have put in over the last 2 weeks. So yeah, just go chill, grab a drink, take a nap, and yeah, just enjoy the weekend because you deserve it. For those staying for the Q&A, I'm Nikki. I'm the marketing and events coordinator at Makers, and for the next 30 minutes, Alex, Rachel, and I will just go through any queries you have about the course, about any technical questions, about the languages we use, interview processes, any questions at all. We'll be here to help with that. And if you do have one, just pop it in the chat bot. The Q&A chat bot, and we'll get that sorted for you. I'll just have a look if there's any questions right now. Okay, we have one question so far from Anonymous. How many students do you take each cohort? I believe it's still 24 is the max we take. Is that right, Alex?
I believe 26 might be a normal cohort, so something around that size.
26.
I might add that is the maximum number of people we will take into a cohort. So if you've been counting carefully, you might have noticed that this cohort is 18 people, so it will occasionally be a little bit smaller than that.
Thanks. Another question. Okay, so what is the interview process to get into Makers? Rachel, I think this is the question for you.
Yep, I guess I'll talk a bit about the application process, so not just the interview. So if you're interested in joining one of our boot camps, you can apply online. We have a cohort starting every month. So if you're interested in joining us sort of at any point, there should be a cohort for you to sort of select if you apply. As part of the application process, we ask you to do some Ruby coding. So we ask you to have a look at a course called Code Academy and complete the Learn Ruby course on there. And we also ask you to have a go on Code Wars, which is like a challenge-based website. You can do challenges in lots of different languages, but we ask you to focus on Ruby. So you do those two things in order to prepare for like an online challenge sort of test that we send to you. It shouldn't be too difficult. It is for beginners, and it's a chance for you to sort of showcase the skills that you've learned on Code Academy and Code Wars. And then the final part of the process is doing a sort of like a Zoom call, like a phone interview with somebody from our selection team, where it's not technical, they'll just be asking you questions around sort of why coding, why do you want to join Makers, like perhaps what industry you've come from before and how your previous skills can be used if you did come to a boot camp and gain new technical skills. So yeah, it's more of like just an interview to get to know you, but also like why you want to come to Makers, and we want to check that, yeah, you're ready to sort of embark on the journey that is doing the Makers course. So hopefully that answers a little bit. You should be able to find like that main information about the courses I talked about on the website, or maybe in a follow-up email, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure, that all that information about the kind of Code Wars and Code Academy will be on the follow-up. And that's, I think you've answered the next question, which is basically what coding experience or knowledge is necessary to start the bootcamp. And yeah, you'll be asked to practice, as Rachel said, those things anyway. So just a little bit of experience is useful. The next one from Anonymous is, what is the teaching style of the bootcamp? I think this is for you, Alex.
Yes. So the bootcamp's teaching style is largely self-paced and to an extent self-led. So we have regular challenges which will help you to grow and be more and more able as a developer. But you will have quite a lot of responsibility for how you learn. That said, we have regular workshops, we have group projects as well, and I'm hoping that everyone will feel like Makers is the most supportive environment that you have ever been in. And we really will help you and support you to achieve your goals and become a better developer. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's answered it very well. Thank you, Alex. The next question from Amber is, can you explain in more detail what we should expect at the exam? Rachel, I think.
Yeah, I think you mean, yeah, like the coding challenge that you'll be sent. So yeah, it will be, I think it's 3 or 4 like multiple choice coding questions. So asking you, yeah, some multiple choice questions, and then you'll do like 4 more in-depth little challenges. They are still small. So you'll have an hour to complete the whole assessment. So to do the multiple choice questions, and then the challenges will look similar to Code Wars. So once you start Code Wars, you'll have more of an idea of what that looks like and what I'm talking about. But basically, we'll ask you, for example, to create a method that does something, and then you'll have to create a method and write a method. So write some lines of code that do whatever it's asking you to do, and then you'll have to pass some tests in order to then submit the challenge. So it's very similar to like a level 8 kata on Code Wars is what you'll sort of face in the exam. So right now that might seem like you don't know what that means, but hopefully yeah, if you want to try some coding, have a look at Code Wars and Code Academy, and then you'll sort of see the layout. So you'll hopefully be familiar with the environment when you come to do the challenge. It won't be something out of the blue.
Thanks, Rachel. The next question is about sort of cohort dates. So Kyle's asked, can we apply now for January, or do we need to wait for the December application to be filled? As far as I'm aware, you can go on whichever cohort you want to, you're happy to go on and that you manage to get into. I think that same rule still applies now.
Yeah. So I think at the moment we have December, January and February cohorts online, but if you do want to apply for a later one, just select one of those, and in your application, if you just state what month you want to join, because there'll be one every month, but yeah, you should be able to apply for January now.
Cool, thank you. Next question is, what is the deadline to complete the Ruby Code Academy assessment for the next intake? So isn't it 2 weeks before?
So we don't really have like a set deadline, because we do fill spaces on like a first come first served basis. So there are still spaces for December. So if you're thinking about it, I would say get your application in now. You need to be starting the resources, because the resources might take you 3 or 4 weeks to work through. So it's not something you can just do a few days before a start date. It does require some time. So yeah, I would say applying sort of 6 weeks before you wish to join us would be a good amount of time. But yeah, if you've maybe done a bit of coding already, or you've got a lot of time on your hands to do the resources, you could still apply for December now. But yeah, we don't set specific deadlines, but obviously the sooner you can apply, the better chances are that there's still going to be spaces and that you manage to sort of pass our application process.
Thanks, Rachel. The next question is about Ruby. So I'm assuming this is for you, Alex. Amber's asking, my understanding is Ruby is not very common language. Is there a reason why makers choose this language as a starting point?
Yes, lots of reasons. Ruby is very, very similar to a lot of working languages, like Python, which was mentioned today, and other typical general purpose software development languages. So most of what you learn in Ruby will transfer quite nicely into other things. Ruby is also a great language for beginners. It's got a very friendly community and it's got great resources out there. It's also quite a rewarding language to get started in. It brings a lot to the table, so you have maybe a bit of an easier time. So the lessons you learn in Ruby will transfer very well. And in fact, we cover learning a new language as part of the course. So around the middle of the course, people will learn JavaScript. And if you heard talk today about React or about TypeScript, those at their heart are JavaScript. TypeScript is JavaScript with a little bit of extra functionality on top, but it's still really JavaScript. And React is a combination of JavaScript with HTML. So yes, we start with Ruby. That is for good reasons. Although I know we have at least one apprenticeship where we have started offering it with a different language as our starting point. So if that really is a deal breaker for you, ask about our apprenticeships and you'll hopefully get some information that will show you more possibilities.
Thank you, Alex. Next question is there a time limit on the entry coding challenge assessment?
Yes, so you get 1 hour. Yeah, you get 1 hour to do the challenges, which should be enough time because yeah, they're quite small challenges. So yeah, you get an hour.
Thanks, Rachel. So the next question, it's an interesting one. Could we apply for an apprenticeship with makers if we were attending a government-funded 13-week bootcamp with a different provider? This is quite a difficult one because I suppose it depends, doesn't it? You know, how the length of time, you know, how long ago you did that bootcamp for, you know, were you in long-term employment afterwards? I think there's a lot of different factors involved in how it would be accepted. Rachel, I don't know if there's any sort of barriers to that on your end.
Yeah, I think we'd probably want to know a little bit more about, was it a software developer, like 13-week bootcamp? Was it testing? Was it like a slightly different bootcamp, or like what was the bootcamp? Just because for any apprenticeships, obviously we, you can't be too qualified in an area before you do an apprenticeship. So there's definitely something that you can fill out and assess yourself in order to see if you would be eligible to apply for one of our apprenticeships. So yeah, perhaps if you email in to our apprenticeship team, we will then be able to sort of give you more precise information.
Next question is, when is the next government skills bootcamp, and is it the same application interview process? So I'm assuming this is the DFE we're talking about. So we are currently taking in applications for the DFE. When's the cutoff, Rachel? Are we not doing that anymore?
No, so applications are closed at the moment because
sorry, my apologies.
We're about to select for our final sort of cohort of 2022, and then unfortunately we are just waiting on the government to find out if there will be more funding for sort of future cohorts. So at the moment, I think we've just advised people to keep an eye on our LinkedIn in case there are sort of like other opportunities that might come up, or if there is another skills bootcamp, we will obviously sort of promote on our LinkedIn and sort of social media. So I would keep an eye out on that.
Thank you, Rachel. Can attendees to this meeting be sent a recording of it, please? My sound keeps cutting out. Yeah, absolutely. I will send that in the follow-up email on Monday, so you'll get one. That's not a problem. How quickly do graduates land tech jobs after completing the bootcamp? So it varies, but it's a strange one because before the pandemic, of course, I think there was like 100% job guarantee afterwards, you know, like say like, you know, 3 to 6 months afterwards or a year afterwards. And obviously that's changed a lot, but it's getting a lot better. And I think that when you're doing the course, you do have to prepare not only for doing, you know, your 3 months, you have to prepare for job hunting for 3 to 6 months after as well. But that's our kind of time limit we give normally. And we have lots of support. We have a big team to support you on that. So it's not like you do the boot camp and then you're just left to your own devices. You know, we have careers fairs, we have a whole team that is bringing in companies who specifically want to hire makers. So there's a lot of support there for you, but I would say that if you're going to do the bootcamp, definitely prepare yourself for that length of time where you will be job hunting for 3 to 6 months or longer. Okay, next question from Amber is, can you share the success rate of people passing the exam first time round? Do you have any stats on this? I don't think I do.
It's not something that we currently track. So Amber, I don't know off the top of my head, but I would say that if you've done the work and, you know, spent time practicing in Ruby, it is quite a high success rate. I don't think we have like 50% of people failing. I think it is quite high when people have done the prep work, and obviously you don't get access to the challenge unless you have done the prep work. So I wouldn't worry too much about the assessment. If you don't pass it the first time, you do get a chance to do it again. We'll ask you to do a bit more coding before you do, but you'll then be given challenges of the same level. There'll be different challenges, but the same level to try again. So if you're worried because you haven't done an exam or something in a long time, yeah, it's more of a challenge rather than an exam. It's for you to hopefully prove to yourself that you have learned a lot of things, and yeah, it should be suitable for sort of beginners. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much, and we can definitely talk you through it more if you do intend to apply and you're a bit worried. We can definitely chat to you a bit more about it as well.
Thanks, Rachel. Next question is, how regularly do you have apprenticeships? So it varies. They're coming fast and furious. More recently, we're having a lot more come in the pipeline. So I would give a sort of estimate to say that we have one advertised every few weeks, and then I would say we have one cohort of apprentices a month on average. That's how it's going at the moment. That amount is getting higher. So basically, if you are looking to do the apprenticeship, you definitely, whenever we post anything, it'll always be on our LinkedIn sort of first and foremost, and then on the rest of the job boards and on our website. So I think a good way to check on what ones are most recent, just follow us on LinkedIn and you'll be updated with the latest.
We also have a request to perhaps repeat the answer to the recording question, which is yes, we will send out a link to a recording with the follow-up email from this.
Oh, thank you.
You should be able to catch up there.
Thank you. Okay, so Kyle is asking, so Makers is no longer offering spots for government funded applicants. How likely would you have any government funded slots for January? I would say that's I'm not sure actually. Rachel, you're probably best to answer
Yeah. So Kyle, I don't know whether you've applied already. So we do have some people still going through the process, and they will be offered one last cohort before the end of the year. But if you haven't applied already, that's where applications are sort of unfortunately closed at the moment. I think I said before, Kyle, but in case you missed it, that we're just unsure. You know, we don't know whether there is going to be government funding. So it is a bit of a waiting game, unfortunately. So yeah, it's not the best answer, but it's just something that we're waiting to hear back on. Obviously, we'd love to do something like this again. We've been doing it for the last couple of years. So yeah, the hope is that we would, but I just can't promise anything.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay. Oh. No, I'll give a couple of minutes. Maybe just if we're waiting for a couple, I'll just say that the next 2 cohorts, the next hybrid delivery one is on the 5th of December, with the pre-course starting the 5th of December, and then obviously we have Christmas and stuff, so full time starts on the 16th of January. And then the next online delivery will be the pre-course will start the 16th of January. With the full-time course starting 13th of February.
If anybody also has more questions and they want to join, we have a information session every Tuesday. So I don't know whether we can add that, Nikki, to the follow-up, because it's another chance to speak to someone like myself. Yeah, if you have more questions, we do that weekly. So yeah, if something comes to mind after this session, there's always a chance every week to come along to another session like this and speak to somebody from Makers.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that's a really good point. And in the follow-up, I'll add that along with, we have a new free workshop every second Tuesday. So if you do want to try a little bit of coding, if you've literally have no experience whatsoever, it's a really good way just to get stuck in. And the first one's on Ruby. So yeah, and you'll be learning from Makers coaches, which would be really great. Oh, okay. So I think we've got Kyle says, okay, thank you. What would be the best way to get an update on that then? I'm sure you would not like us calling in every few days.
I would say the LinkedIn, we're always going to do sort of like an announcement or on our social media if applications were to open up again. So yeah, join us on LinkedIn and you should see updates of apprenticeships and then any sort of like scholarship places.
Yeah, exactly. Someone said, are you penalised for not attending live sessions? No. Is this for...
I don't know whether that's coaching or what that is. I guess we would encourage you to attend all of your coaching.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I thought this was like to do with like this or something else. No. If it's coaching, then Alex, do you penalise people for not sessions?
We absolutely don't penalise people for not attending live sessions. However, it is expected, and because we have a duty of care to our students, our learners, we would follow up and just make sure you're all right. But no, you're not going to be penalised for missing a couple of live sessions. If you're regularly missing live sessions, that's a more serious concern for us. But there's no kind of defined plan for what would happen then. It very rarely happens.
Thanks, Alex. someone's asked, what are the general requirements for apprenticeships? I suppose for application wise, a lot of the apprenticeships, they don't require any experience, but you will be doing the boot camp, so it'll be the same sort of assessments you'll be doing for the apprenticeships, because you are essentially with makers as well, and you have to do the same boot camp as the academy. So everything's the same, and a lot of companies, you know, they just really want to know that you're obviously passionate about tech, but you're passionate about that industry. So whatever it is, whether it's you're working with like a car company or makeup company, whatever it is, fashion, like, you know, they want you to be passionate. So always keep that in mind, whatever you're applying for. But I don't know if Rachel can add anything else, but I think it's pretty much the same as the academy.
Yeah, I would say I don't think you can have like a computer science degree, like that would probably make you ineligible. But yeah, I think probably, the general requirements are just an enthusiasm to want to learn to code. And yeah, if there's a particular apprenticeship you're interested in, why are you interested in that area? So yeah, just having some love of technology, I think, you know, and try some coding. Even if there's not an apprenticeship live now, I would just encourage you to try some coding, you know, go to a meetup so that you can meet other people and yeah, get a head start basically.
I'd like to add, I believe there are some statutory requirements which we may be able to help with to some extent as well, which are approximately GCSE level English and maths, as I understand it. Rachel, I think you can confirm.
Yes, but I do believe that we can support students or learners to gain those things. But yeah, you do have to have GCSE equivalent, yeah, English and maths, you're right. We can probably get a better list of like the definite requirements from our sort of apprenticeship team that are a bit more specific on that side. So yeah, if you want to know about apprenticeships, yeah, perhaps you can drop your name so that we can send you a separate email. I don't know whether we want to add it to the general email, but you can also send a private message to one of us and then we can send that out to you.
Yeah, 100%. The next one question is asking, are you able to share any upcoming apprenticeships? I can tell you that there's one coming out on Monday or Tuesday, so to look out on our LinkedIn, but I don't think, I don't know if I'm allowed to say what it is. Yeah, I'm not sure which one. So basically what I'll say is there's one coming out on Monday or Tuesday, so it will be on our LinkedIn. We're getting it scheduled in for then, so make sure you check that out. It'll probably be posted in the morning, about 9:30, so that's what I'll say to you, because I don't know if I'm allowed to say who it is yet. Don't think it's top secret, but
Can I ask, how long will the applications stay open on that as well? Because I think that's also useful information.
That's a really good question, actually. And I can actually maybe see if I can check quickly. But what I will say is they normally don't stay open for very long. Just in general, it's usually maybe like a week or 2 weeks max. I found previously that's just what happens. It's a shame I can't find. I don't think the landing page has been ready for it yet, so I can't find that. But yeah, very short time frame to do it. So it's one of those ones where if you see it, just go for it. If you see it, you like it, yeah, just get stuck in, because it's yeah, very, very short time to do it. Okay, so the next question from Adam is asking, you said you get people from industry involved. Could you go into a bit of detail on the industry engagement networking side? Yeah, of course. So how it kind of works, I suppose, is we have a partnerships team who they work alongside, they'll be in direct contact with various companies who will come in to our careers fairs with job openings for makers. They'll present to our recent graduates, and they'll say, for instance, there'll be one, each company will have like 10 positions specifically for makers, and then they'll network afterwards, and then there'll be the applications will be the makers will do the applications, and then that'll be that, and that's how that kind of that's kind of how that works. However, there is different ways. It's not just careers fairs. I think they do we used to do lunchtime talks, Rachel. I don't know if we're still doing those at the moment.
I think we were doing them virtually, but yeah, definitely the careers fair is one of the main things, but also the partnerships team are also looking to provide like jobs to graduates when they graduate. So there'll just be like a jobs board, so you'll be able to see openings. So if you are a makers graduate, you'd be able to see what jobs are available, and then you'd be able to apply. I think the other side of the support comes from the careers team. So I don't think we really talked about that, but the careers team, we have careers coaches, so people where you can book in one-to-one sessions to get help with anything to do with the job hunt, changing career. You know, it's a scary time. So like, yeah, having someone to talk to and help you through the process. They do CV reviews. After the course, you do like 2 weeks of like intensive careers coaching workshops and things like that. So at the end of the course, it's a really important time to still stay engaged with us and come along to that support. What else do we do? We have a place where you can alert us that you've got an interview, and then you can speak to somebody technical who can sort of prepare you for that interview, whether that be a tech test, whether that's a behavioral interview. So we have an amazing guy called Hunor that's helping sort of students prep for interviews. So yeah, I think the job support encompasses lots more than just finding you a job. It's also preparing you so that you can apply for external roles as well. I think it's important to say that not everybody gets a job through a makers like company, a hiring partner, but we support you to apply externally as well. You know, having an amazing CV, being confident at interviews. And I believe that you can take part in sort of more technical challenges, or like we encourage you to like carry on coding. So is that right? Is there something at the end, Alex, like extra projects that people can get involved in?
There are some extra projects. They're not necessarily always present, but they do come around from time to time. But we actually have more than just a couple of weeks of quite structured support in place at the moment. So you really will be supported to go from the intense bootcamp experience into a nice steady state of job hunting and getting yourself out there and getting yourself a job.
Thank you. And yeah, a lot of our some of our coaches have, you know, our makers alumni as well. So they've been in your position before, which is super helpful, and they know exactly what you're going through. So it's a comforting thing to have as well. The next question is, do you have a DevOps bootcamp? If so, when is the next intake? We don't have DevOps. It's not specific.
We don't have DevOps on like the bootcamp, but we do have DevOps apprenticeships. So yeah, if you're interested in DevOps in particular, it would be looking out for specific apprenticeships that might be DevOps specific.
Yeah, thank you. Next question is from Amber. What is the average salary you see people landing after graduating from makers as a software engineer? The average salary is between 30 and 35. I don't know if that's changed over the course of the last 6 months or so, but it really varies, to be honest. You know, you'll see people who will get the most incredible hike, you know, like I think someone recently had just graduated and they got 45 or 50 just in their starting salary, and then, you know, other people will be 30, and it just varies. But I would say if you're doing the bootcamp and you want to manage your expectations, I would say 30 to 35 starting, but there is a lot of progression. You know, we just did an alumni survey, and a lot of the software engineers who graduated after a year, you know, were moving up in the ranks of the company very quickly. So it's, you know, I would say that. I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Rachel, if that's about right.
I think that's right for like London-based salaries. So I think if you're living out of London, your expectation might be a bit lower, because obviously most people that come to makers will graduate and might get a job in London or a bigger city that might be a tech hub. But if you are looking to do the course with us online, and do it remotely from wherever you might live, which is an amazing chance to do it as well. But just your starting salary might be less if you're looking for a job outside of sort of London, I would say. But yeah, apart from that, I would say that's accurate what you said.
Okay, I think that's the last question we have. Adam, thanks for the explanation. Should we wait like another 10 seconds?
May as well give people another moment.
Yeah. But some great questions though. Okay, going once, going twice. Well, thank you everyone for joining the Q&A and for joining us for the presentations. Hope you all have a lovely weekend. And if you do have any other questions that you feel like you want answered, please just get in touch with us on social media or through contact@makers.tech. I'll be sending through emails to everyone who attended on Monday with all the information that we've discussed today about sort of challenges you can do and about our info sessions and about our workshop. So look out for that. All right, guys, have a good weekend. Bye.